Since March 2020, Belize and the world at large have been grappling with the various challenges brought upon us by this global pandemic known as COVID-19. The judiciary of Belize, like many other institutions, has had to adjust and adapt to the profound impact of this health crisis on our daily lives. The changes we have had to make have been many. The main priority for us has been the need to preserve the health and safety of our judges, staff, and all court users by protecting them from this clear and present danger, while ensuring that the judiciary of Belize continues to function in service to the people of this nation. I would like to thank the Jurist Project of Canada for providing the judiciary of Belize with much-needed support during this critical time. This support has taken the form of donations of computer equipment in our courts to assist us in improving our technological means of communication as we transition from a paper-based to an electronic and paperless system. Support has also come from jurists in the form of providing funding for and assisting in the creation of signage on our court buildings, prominently displaying to the general public the need to wear masks and sanitize hands at all times. In the magistrates' courts over the past 2 years, the courts have suffered from inadequate resources, including human resources. In response to the pandemic, the chief magistrate has had to resort to rotation of magistrates and staff as they seek to meet the pressing needs of courts in Corozal, Dangriga, Cayo, and Toledo. Despite safety measures implemented, including the retrofitting of courts in Belize City and Dangriga, by the installation of plexiglass dividers in courtrooms, and the vaccination of magistrates and staff, the impact of COVID-19 has directly affected the magistracy, as a number of magistrates and staff have in fact tested positive, and a few have become quite ill from COVID-19. This has resulted in the chief magistrate being forced, on a number of occasions, to temporarily shut down the courts to allow for sanitization of the premises before courts are allowed to resume hearings. We know that these disruptions create great inconvenience to court users, many of whom have waited a long time to have their cases heard. But the need to protect the health of all court users must take priority in these dangerous times. We must continue to keep safety as a top priority as we go about the daily business of the judicial system. In an effort to alleviate the burden on the magistrates' courts, particularly as it relates to in-person arraignment of accused persons, we are in the process of drafting a practice direction to address virtual arraignment of persons at the magistrates' courts, and we hope to have that practice direction in place by next month. In Practice Direction 2020, the magistrates' courts were empowered to allow defendants in traffic offenses who wish to plead guilty to do so by post, as prescribed by Section 41 of the Summary Jurisdiction Procedure Act. In the Supreme Court, after consultation with various stakeholders, including the Bar Association of Belize, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the prison authorities, the Attorney General's Ministry, the Chief Magistrate, the Family Court Director, and the Registrar of the Court of Appeal, I prepared a practice direction designed to govern the manner in which the work of the court would continue in the face of this pandemic. The overarching measures of the Supreme Court of Judicature of Belize COVID-19 Practice Directions 2020 were designed to protect the health and safety of all court users, while ensuring maintenance of access to justice and keeping the judicial system functioning. In addition to general safety protocols requiring sanitization of workstations, displaying information posters and signage on court buildings, and requirement of use of face masks at all times in the premises of the court, that practice direction also put in place the requirement of social distancing of 6 feet in court offices and courtrooms. The practice direction was developed in keeping with the recommendations of the Ministry of Health. Other safety measures, such as reduced work hours, rotation of staff, and work-from-home initiatives were introduced in keeping with the Ministry of the Public Service recommendations, as stated in the telecommuting work-from-home policy for the Belize Public Service. In addition to this, we at the Supreme Court also implemented our own safety protocols for staff with regard to immediate steps to be taken when staff have been exposed to the virus, have been displaying symptoms of infection, or have tested positive for COVID-19. The introduction of virtual hearings to replace in-person hearings wherever possible was set out in this practice direction, and this process took place via social platforms such as Microsoft Teams, Skype, and Zoom. Written submissions were also used as a substitute for in-person court hearings to minimize the risk of transmission of the virus through physical interactions. Where in-person hearings could not be avoided, the requirement was that there was a strict limit on the number of persons who could physically attend court, and that number was limited to the essential persons, including judicial personnel, attorneys, litigants, and the media. In the Criminal Division of the Supreme Court, jury trials were completely suspended at the start of the pandemic. It was too risky for persons to be grouped together in a jury room or in a courtroom for extended periods of time, especially during the time when the particularly lethal Delta variant was spreading rapidly, taking a number of precious lives from our community. Under the practice direction, bail hearings at the Supreme Court were and still are being conducted virtually by way of video link conferencing between the court and the Colby Foundation prison. Guilty pleas, sentencing, adjournments, and other matters were all facilitated by way of video conferencing. With the retrofitting of courts, jury trials have started in Belmopan and Dangriga and will resume shortly in Belize City. One of the major concerns has been the crucial need to social distance during the process of selecting a jury panel from a large crowd of potential jurors. This concern has been addressed by the use of large buildings such as the Belmopan City Center to empanel the jury, after which the selected panel goes to court to carry out their duty and the other potential jurors leave until summoned for a next case. In the Civil Division, all hearings and trials were held virtually using Microsoft Teams. At the start of the pandemic, the Supreme Court Registry was able to reduce in-person contact to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 by implementing such measures as the use of a Dropbox, email filing, and video conferencing. While these steps taken were effective in helping to minimize the risk of exposure to COVID-19, there was still a requirement for person-to-person contact for the filing of documents and payment of filing fees. Heeding the call for a system which required little or no in-person contact, the judiciary of Belize was able to pivot rapidly in a few weeks to electronic filing of documents. Through the diligent and determined efforts of the Honorable Attorney General, Mrs. Magali Marin Young, Senior Counsel, our courts were able to introduce the APEX, Caribbean Agency for Justice Solutions system, the same digitized system utilized by our nation's highest court, the Caribbean Court of Justice. This system has revolutionized the way in which courts conduct business, in that documents can now be filed from anywhere at any time without the need to physically come into the court office. While the court had been gradually inching toward the increased use of technology in recent years, the COVID-19 pandemic has driven us to embrace the technology at a much faster pace than would have transpired under ordinary circumstances. Our traditional commencement ceremony at the start of the judicial year has had to be held virtually for the past 2 years. While we certainly miss the physical interaction of being able to congregate on this special occasion and embrace the rare opportunity to welcome new members to the profession while celebrating with old colleagues, we have been forced to adjust to the new normal of viewing the ceremony virtually. The pandemic rages on, unpredictable in its range, duration, and intensity. At times, the numbers of infected cases seem to skyrocket, while at other times, the numbers seem to fall. This scourge remains with us on a daily basis. It is my sincere hope that in time, and with consistent and responsible efforts on all our parts, aimed at limiting the spread of the virus, COVID-19 will gradually fade into oblivion. But that is not yet our reality. In the meantime, we in the judiciary continue to do our utmost to keep the wheels of justice moving forward as we implement the requisite safety measures while delivering justice to our people. In closing, I wish to bring to your attention the following contact information, which you can utilize if you are seeking information. Feel free to email us at info@belizejudiciary.org or call us at 227-7377 or 223-2035 with your queries.